NHL regular season recap, night 114, and we kick things off with none other than Marc-Andre Fleury's 1,000th game against who more fitting than his former team, the Pittsburgh Penguins. The pregame ceremony was fantastic. His kids are A, adorable, and B, did a fantastic job with all the responsibility that they were given. It was really, really fun to watch. Then the game was a pretty solid one, too. Matt Boldy with his 17th of the year in the first makes it 1-0. In the second, Riley Smith ties it with his 9th before Brodin makes it 2-1 just a few minutes later. And then in the third, who but Sidney Crosby to tie the game just a minute in, his 28th of the year on the power play. And about halfway through the period is Kirill Kaprizov. This one did get reviewed, but it would be upheld with his 20th of the year, and it's a 3-2 final for Minnesota. And of course, in his 1,000th game, he was fantastic. 34 of 36 saves for Marc-Andre Fleury. It was really a storybook game. This really couldn't have gone any better, and it was fantastically entertaining for those of you that watched, even if you were not a fan of either of these two teams. Just a great night for hockey, and of course, for Flower in general in this one. The Wild get a much-needed win, 3-2 over the Penguins. The Rangers visiting Chicago, and this one got a little tighter for the Rangers than it probably should have. In the first period, Alex Vlasic opens the scoring, and then it's Lafreniere and Kreider that both score to make it 2-1, and it looks like the Rangers are probably going to walk away with this one. In the second, Brodzinski extends that lead to 3-1. Again, the Rangers looking to be in pretty good shape, and they had dominated the first two periods. Shots were 12-8 in the first, 17-11 in the second, but in the third, that changes entirely. The Blackhawks score 2, Nick Foligno and Jason Dickinson, and they outshoot the Rangers 12-3 to force overtime. In the overtime, though, they're not able to get the comeback done. Mika Zibanejad ends up being the hero almost exactly halfway through his 16th of the year from Fox and Kreider, and it's a 4-3 win for the Rangers. Shesterkin was all right in this one, 28-31, had some solid saves, but just statistically not crazy numbers. Peter Mrazek slightly busier despite that crazy third from his Blackhawks, 31 of 35 and 886 save percentage in the losing effort. And as has been the case for most of the year, the Rangers maintain their first spot in the Metro, while the Hawks maintain their 8th in the Central. The third and final game of the night between the Ducks and Oilers, and this one was far more entertaining than I anticipated it was going to be. Cam Fowler opens the scoring almost all the way through the first, just a minute and 20 to play. In the second, Evander Kane, Ryan Strome, and a second from Evander Kane. Ping-pong goals back and forth to make it 2-2 headed to the third. Ryan Strome gets one early, about 3:20 in, to make it a 3-2 lead for the Ducks, and suddenly things are looking a little rocky for Edmonton. But about 5 minutes later, it's Zach Hyman and then Leon Draisaitl and Evander Kane with the empty netter that eventually make it a 5-3 final. That, of course, topping off Evander Kane's hat-trick effort. Ryan Strome, of course, with 2 goals in this one. Draisaitl, a goal and an assist. Some really solid performances all around. McDavid had 3 assists in this one also. Calvin Pickard was not fantastic, but just good enough for the win, 24 of 27. John Gibson played the first 2 periods and then exited after the second. I think I heard it was a lower body injury on the broadcast. I wasn't paying a ton of attention at the beginning of this period, but Lucas Estal comes in and gives up 2 in the third, which kind of tough. 800 save percentage, ends up having his team lose. I don't think it's easy to blame that on him, but you'd like probably one more save there, and they potentially force overtime. Nonetheless, it's a big win for the Oilers. They continue humming along even after that last game against Vegas to snap their streak. So good to see that from them. The Ducks staying competitive in these games despite it not really meaning too much, but nonetheless, a 5-3 victory for Edmonton, and that was it for NHL regular season recap night 114. We have a ton of games on Saturday because, of course, the Super Bowl is Sunday. So going to be a busy night. We'll talk to you guys then.